add value to people because people are valuable. A lot of times, it's really circling back to what's difficult about not mentorship. That's a whole nother topic about networking. Is that people are trying to take something out of you. They want to add something to you. So for myself, when I'm approaching people, I genuinely have a curiosity for who you are and what you do. I really love learning new things.
Turn this up, turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality.
Hi, it's Paul Faronbi, aka IncrediPaul, and welcome to IncrediPaul Leadership, where we learn on kind of the most incredible versions of ourselves by learning from each other. So you can probably see, if you've watched the show before, that I'm in a different background. And if you're not watching and you're just listening, then maybe it sounds just about the same. It should sound the same. But that's just a quick plug. If you're listening to the episode, first off, thank you so much for your support. It would be awesome if you're able to watch it as well, or even check out previous episodes on YouTube. But just, I really appreciate all your support in watching or listening or doing both for this episode and all the other previous episodes as well. So, quick commercial out of the way, but I wanted to talk specifically about networking for this episode. I'm trying to keep it a shorter episode, trying to do something different with my solo episodes, keep it kind of shorter and sweeter. We'll see how long this ends up being. But a lot of times with networking, I feel like the reason why people think networking is so difficult is because they focus so much on themselves. Like when you focus on yourself, that makes things so much harder. How are you coming off? Like, are I sounding smart? Am I asking the right questions? Am I doing this? Am I doing that? And that's great. There's a place for that. I don't think networking is the right place for it. Networking needs to be others focused. And I understand. You've probably heard it said, it's not your net worth, it's your network. That's how you're going to get bigger, better, make money, jobs, career success, all those different things. But here's the thing with networking. The best time to network for what you want is when you don't actually need it, or just to constantly be doing it. What do I mean? Like a lot of times, the reason why people network is because they want a job, or they want opportunities, they want to make sales, all these different things. And that's great, but really the purpose of networking is building genuine connections with people. When it all comes down to it, people do business with those that they know, they like, and they trust. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And how do you get to know people? By networking with them. So I think the main reason why that even came up for me with networking is I've done a lot of networking here in DC. So came here for the NESB Professional Development Conference 2024. I actually had the honor of speaking at the conference. I led a workshop on leading beyond titles, navigating leadership for young professionals, which I gave it that title, and I'm definitely focused on young professionals. But what I shared really applies to anyone who wants to lead beyond titles or just lead in general. Because at the end of the day, leading is not just about a title, it's not a position, it's about really who you are. There's a character piece, it's an integrity piece, so many things. But this episode's going to be, I'll focus in more on the networking piece. Because the reason why I was able to connect with so many people was just from the practice of networking. Perfect example is that I happened to be in DC around the same time that another person I got connected with, that she was actually on the podcast previously. So you can go back and check out Mia Williams, her podcast, her story, all the stuff she's done with the colors of her success. And through the power of networking, that even seemingly how we met was interesting, just from they're looking for different career coaches for something she was launching, the Color Connects, which by the time this gets posted. This will be around the time that the Color Connect will be launching. But the interesting thing is that she had posted she was going to be in DC speaking somewhere, and I was like, I'm going to be in DC, and then just making that connection and actually being able to go to the event, which was actually another networking event. And so I was coming to DC for a conference and network, and then I had another opportunity to network in another gathering type, and then to meet a fellow founder and someone else also had on the podcast, meet her in person. So that was definitely really special to do that. That wouldn't have happened without first networking. And it wasn't something that I just set out from the very beginning that, oh, I'm going to be meeting XY person, this specific person. I think sometimes there are opportunities when you're going into a space that you can seek out specific people you want to talk to. And I think that's great. But I think what you have to be mindful of and to be careful about when you're doing that is that you need to, when you're seeking out people, seek out a way to add value to them. Add value to people because people are valuable. A lot of times, it's really circling back to what's difficult about mentorship. That's a whole nother topic about networking, is that people are trying to take something out of you. I want to add something to you. So for myself, when I'm approaching people, I genuinely have a curiosity for who you are and what you do. I really love learning new things, love learning different aspects of things. I know not everyone is like that, but that's just something, I guess it's a gift I have just to continue to want to learn and grow and develop. And so I think that's why I enjoy podcasting so much and talking to people, because I'm like really engaged in the conversation, learning different things. So my approach to networking is really asking questions about the person, like basic questions. So just basic questions for anyone maybe who is not as comfortable with networking is, if you're at a specific conference or an event, definitely lead off with introducing yourself. They'll probably introduce themselves. Ask them where they're from, where they grew up, how they're enjoying the conference or the activity, whatever it is. And then from there, just ask questions based on how the conversation goes. So an example of this is oftentimes I will ask a question to someone, or they'll start talking about something that's like, oh, they took a trip somewhere, or they grew up in this city, or they lived in this place, or they work for this company in this city, whatever. And so, at least for me, because I've had the opportunity to travel a decent amount, I worked for several different companies, not several, I've worked for a few different companies. I can find common ground with almost anyone. And I say almost because I'm sure there's sometimes, I know there's times I don't find common ground, but when I find common ground, I really highlight it and talk about it. And then see, like sometimes it's common ground, but we might have different perspectives on things. Not everyone's going to see eye to eye. And I think it's important that we understand just because someone is different from you doesn't mean that they're wrong. You also need to reserve the right that maybe you're wrong and you can learn some things. But really understanding that finding common ground is great and that's a good way to network. The other thing is when you don't have common ground. So there'll be times that people will ask about things, or we'll start talking about things I have no idea about. And I think that's equally as important, what you do and really being curious with the other person, what they find interesting, what they like to do. So I think I'm trying to think of an example of something that happened recently that I really hadn't done. I think, someone was talking about going on a cruise, which I've never been on a cruise, and they're talking about going snorkeling, getting scuba certified, all these different excursion type activities. Honest, as you can hear, I haven't done them, so I guess that just means I need to get out more, not be behind the podcast mic as much, and just actually get there and do it. I'll get to it at some point. But then from there, I would just ask questions about how they got into that, what they find interesting, what is the process of training. the real key behind networking, the more I talk about it and think about it, is really showing that you're active listening. Active listening. And I talked about it during the workshop that I led on earlier this week. But active listening is something that's so key. So different ways you can show you're actively listening is by repetition, paraphrasing, asking thought-provoking questions. But the other thing is body language and tone. Body language and tone. Because when it comes down to it, when we are communicating, our words are only 10%, 10%. 10% of our communication comes from the words that we're saying. 32% of our communication comes from the tone of the words that we're using. 58%. 58% of our communication is nonverbal. It is body language.
Are you wondering what's next? Has everything you tried failed? Or maybe you just feel stuck? Then coaching might be right for you. The coaching relationship is a relationship totally centered on you. If you're tired of running on the hamster wheel of life and want to start to see results, reach out to IncrediPaul for help. So what are you waiting for? Go to IncrediPaul.org/coaching, IncrediPaul.org/coaching, or at I am IncrediPaul on all my socials. Or you can click the link in the bio for your free coaching session. I want to make sure you become the most incredible version of yourself.
You can say the same thing. I don't know how many different ways. You can say it so many different ways. And you may ask, this happens in relationships all the time, whether you're married, boyfriend, girlfriend, partner, whatever. How many times do you get a response back from your partner, friend, and it is not what you're expecting, or it's different than what you thought it was going to be, but the words they said was not necessarily anything out of the ordinary. It was the tone or it was the body language. And so really being intentional, and it takes practice, like with anything, it takes practice. You're probably not going to get it right the first time, but really being intentional about your body language, your tone. And how do you do that? The best way to do it is honestly to record yourself or to look in the mirror as you're talking. I have the ability, and whether it's ability or the gift or whatever it is, to be able to record myself regularly with the podcast. So it's something that was very painful at the beginning to watch myself and listen to myself, especially when I first started doing the podcast. It was really just the audio, and then video is a whole nother level. And there's even times when I look at things, I'm like, I don't know if I said this right. I don't know if I'm sounding the way I want to sound, but I have to just push past that and just do it. So that's how you can get better at it, is to watch yourself. So definitely at the very least in the mirror. I think we all have phones. We can record ourselves, set up something, just talk, see what your body language looks like. Are you closed off? Are you not talking loud enough? Are you talking too loud? And in the moment, it's going to happen. Like if you get excited and you start to talk really fast and you don't know what you're saying and people don't understand what you're saying, all these different things, take a deep breath. Remind yourself to slow down. Because oftentimes when people are nervous or excited, so it's kind of hard to tell if someone is just nervous or excited, they speed up. And that's something I have to be intentional about, that my podcast cadence, along with my speaking cadence, like when I'm giving talks, is slower than my normal speech cadence. One reason is because I have to be really intentional with the words to make sure it's coming off in a way that people understand and can comprehend it. The other part of it is it's just good practice to be slower. And what I've realized is what you feel is slow is not always as slow as you may think to the other person. And maybe it is slow. Maybe you're thinking, Paul, you're going so slow. I have to put my podcast on 2.5 times speed or 3 times speed because you talk so slow. Apologies. It's not going to change, but apologies. But really be intentional with your tone, with your speed, your pitch, all these different things. So that is definitely key for any form of communication, but definitely when you're networking. The other thing is when you're networking, just be aware of the type of event that you're going to. What is going to happen is that people see you before they ever hear you. So depending, and if maybe it's a gathering of entrepreneurs, creators, all these different things. Maybe like when I'm wearing a t-shirt, it's fine. Other times, if you're going to more professional networking events, they want business casual, business professional, all these different things. Not to say that you can't get away from it and wear something else. I know there's definitely been times that I've gone to conferences and it's definitely more dressy, or there's kind of a mix with the business professional, business casual, and I'll have a polo on or I have a t-shirt on. What you have to be intentional about and mindful of, really more mindful of, is that when you are wearing something that is different from everyone else, people are probably going to have your eyes on you, be like, this person not get the memo, what is happening? So you're probably going to have to try a little bit more and be more intentional about why you're there, what you're doing. And so oftentimes, I think it even happened yesterday, a couple of days ago, that it was a closing session for the conference and I had a t-shirt on. Some people were still dressed up. I mean, not everyone was dressed up, but everyone on the panel was dressed to the nine. I was not. And just really talking to them about what they do, talking about what I do with podcasting and speaking, and then being able to build those connections. So I don't know if that helps. I don't know if it doesn't help. If you want me to go deeper in what it is to network, communication, I'm definitely continuously on this journey. I talk about becoming the most incredible version of yourself. It's also something that I'm continually practicing because I know I have not arrived. If we are breathing, we have not arrived. Because at the end of the day, there is no one that is good at everything. Or I would say maybe people that are good, because good is subjective. There's no one that's the best at everything. There's always something we continue to learn and grow and develop. And I think there is a balance, and I'm learning to balance more, just to be completely honest. I definitely over-index on improvement, continues to improve, from being a continuous improvement manager to all the stuff I do with coaching. So I definitely over-index on that stuff at the beginning because that really accelerated me to have just the breadth of knowledge of different things. And a lot of times I'm definitely still reading and learning, but I think I'm at the stage that there's stuff that I'm more cementing, so it just comes out of my memory, and I don't always have to look up stuff. So like different conferences or workshops, people will be asking me questions, and I can just kind of dig deeper into stuff I've already learned. Not to say that I'm not continually learning, because that aspect of layered learning is so critical. So over the last year plus, or call it a year, I've been more intentional about that layered learning piece. Because what I would think about, okay, I'm going to focus. I want to read different leadership books, personal growth books. I was trying to find all these different types of books. But then I had a conversation that really led me down the path of the importance of rereading some of those books. Because as you read them again, you're going to extract new knowledge that you might not have extracted the first time based on where you were at originally. So that's something I've been learning. So that's more so on the growth piece. But just wrapping up this networking conversation, the key thing for networking is to focus on the other person. And ideally, they'll start to focus on you. And if they don't start to talk about you, then it's fine. Maybe that's not the right person to network with. But as you focus on others, people focus on you. With the universe, or I'm a person of faith, I say how God's laws work. There's the sowing and the reaping. And I think that's just laws of nature because it works in planting, it works with investing, all these different things. When you're sowing a seed into someone, you may not reap it in that person. It might be another person that is another background from you, doesn't necessarily look like you. And so just being able to give, but also being ready to receive as well. So if you can do these things, be intentional about networking, be intentional about giving, and also receiving, you too can be incredible.
Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible. Incredible.